There's a powerful shift that happens the moment you stop allowing others to manipulate your emotions, your decisions, your identity. You feel strong, centered, grounded. But just when you think you've taken back your power, something else happens, something subtle, sinister, and slippery. When they can no longer control you through manipulation, they use something dirtier. They turn to shame. They whisper it through silence. They deliver it through judgmental glances, icy distance, sarcastic tones. They speak it with words that sound sweet, but sting with subtext. This trick isn't loud like manipulation. It's quiet, calculated, and corrosive. It's emotional exile, and it's designed to make you question everything about yourself. You've likely felt it before. You speak your truth, set a boundary, or make a decision for your own well-being, and suddenly the warmth disappears. The smiles fade. The phone stops ringing. They don't yell, they withdraw. They don't argue, they ignore. They don't attack, they isolate. It's the emotional version of being ghosted, not just digitally, but socially and spiritually. And it's meant to send one chilling message: we liked you better when you were easier to control. But let me be clear, their silence is not your fault. It's not a reflection of your worth, your choices, or your growth. It's a reaction to their discomfort, not your wrongdoing. When people weaponize distance or coldness, they're trying to make you earn back the connection by bending to their comfort. They are saying, be who we want you to be, or be alone. When someone who is used to controlling or manipulating you starts losing their grip, they don't always give up. They shift strategies. Manipulation, at its core, relies on access to your emotions, your insecurities, your guilt, your need for approval. Once you begin healing those internal vulnerabilities, once you stop responding to guilt trips, silent treatment, or fear-based influence, they realize their old tools no longer work. That's when the emotional distancing begins. And make no mistake, it's not passive behavior, it's calculated, it's not silence, it's strategy. Emotional distancing is often mistaken for people just needing space or pulling back. But in the context of failed manipulation, it's something much more intentional. It's an attempt to reclaim power through absence rather than presence. Where before they might have tried to steer your decisions through persuasion, guilt, or gaslighting, now they seek to unsettle you with coldness, exclusion, or detachment. They retreat not because they're hurt, but because they're hoping you will be. It's psychological warfare designed to provoke confusion, regret, and eventually submission. Think about it. When a person who once bombarded you with messages suddenly goes silent after you assert a boundary, what are they hoping you'll feel? Likely abandonment anxiety or a deep discomfort that drives you back into their control. When someone who previously celebrated you suddenly withdraws attention the moment you express independence, they're not passively drifting. They're issuing an ultimatum. The unspoken message becomes clear: I will only connect with you if you go back to being who I need you to be. That's not love. That's control dressed as conditional connection. This tactic can be incredibly damaging because it attacks one of our core human needs: belonging. We are wired to seek connection. So when emotional warmth is pulled away, it can create a vacuum so strong we feel compelled to fix it. Even if we did nothing wrong, we might start questioning ourselves. Was I too harsh? Did I overact? Maybe I should just apologize to make things better. That spiral is exactly what they're counting on. By withdrawing affection or engagement, they're trying to lure you into self-doubt, not because they need healing, but because they want you back in their emotional cage. One of the most dangerous aspects of emotional distancing is that it looks benign on the surface. There are no arguments, no insults, no public outbursts. In fact, many people will make you feel like the aggressor simply because you're asking for answers or clarity. They'll say, "You're overreacting," or "I just needed time," while quietly relishing the power they have over your inner unrest. It's a method of manipulation that allows them to keep their hands clean while you're left holding the confusion and guilt in their mind. If you break the silence first, if you cave, then they've won again. Recognizing this tactic is the first step toward freedom. Emotional distance used as punishment is not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their loss of influence. People who genuinely care about you don't disappear when you express yourself honestly. They don't withhold warmth to coerce compliance. True connection can withstand disagreement, boundaries, and growth. So when you begin to recognize that someone is using silence or absence to pull you back into a role that serves them, not you, it's time to acknowledge the shift in dynamic. You're not losing their love, you're escaping their control. The most dangerous forms of manipulation are not the loud ones, they're the quiet ones. Unlike overt bullying, yelling, or verbal threats, emotional distancing and covert punishment often fly under the radar because they hide behind a mask of social acceptability. In fact, society sometimes even rewards this kind of behavior with labels like mature, unbothered, or emotionally intelligent. But let's call it what it really is, a calculated form of passive control that causes deep psychological harm while escaping accountability. This tactic works so well because it's subtle. There's no dramatic blow up, no screaming match, no evidence you can point to and say, "This was wrong." Instead, it's felt in the chilling quietness after a disagreement, in the delayed responses to your messages, in the sudden shift from warm engagement to cold indifference. You might find yourself replaying conversations in your head, wondering what went wrong. The discomfort grows not because something happened, but because everything changed, and no one's talking about it. The danger of subtle control lies in its ability to create emotional confusion. You can't fight something you can't name. And that's exactly how the manipulator wants it. If they screamed at you, blamed you, or accused you openly, you could defend yourself. But silence, that's harder. It's invisible. You start wondering, are they just busy? Maybe I did say something wrong. Am I imagining things? They count on your need for clarity to force you into chasing their approval again. And the more confused you are, the more power they hold. To make matters worse, this kind of behavior is often framed as healthy or even admirable. The person withdrawing might say, "I just need time to process," or "I don't like conflict, so I'm stepping back." And while those statements can be true in emotionally mature relationships, manipulators weaponize them to avoid taking responsibility. They disappear not to heal, but to make you uncomfortable enough to come crawling back. It's emotional blackmail in disguise, and it's designed to be socially acceptable so that they're never the villain in the story. This tactic is especially effective in communities, workplaces, families, or friend groups where emotional language is weaponized under the guise of boundaries or self-care. For example, someone might say, "I'm setting a boundary by not talking to you right now," when in fact, they're using silence as punishment rather than a path to mutual understanding. Real boundaries come with communication and clarity. This dirty trick comes with ambiguity and guilt. It's not about healthy distance. It's about secret dominance. Another reason this form of manipulation is so hard to spot is because it doesn't break social norms. It uses them. In most cultures, withdrawing when upset is seen as normal. But when withdrawal becomes a pattern used to control or punish someone emotionally, it moves into dangerous territory. You start living in a state of emotional hypervigilance, constantly reading between the lines, wondering where you stand. That confusion isn't a byproduct, it's the goal. They want you uncertain, so they remain in control. When a person's silence speaks louder than their words, you have to ask yourself, is this really space for healing? Or is this space meant to make me afraid of losing them? That distinction is key. Emotional distance becomes manipulative when its purpose is not to reflect, but to provoke. And it's subtle for a reason, because calling it out makes you look needy, reactive, or unstable. That's how they keep their power, by making sure your reaction becomes the problem instead of their behavior. The silence, coldness, and distance, when used with intention, aren't neutral. They're loaded with meaning. And just because they're not as obvious as shouting doesn't mean they aren't as harmful. In many cases, they can do more damage because they erode your self-trust. You begin to question your instincts, your memory, your right to speak up. You begin to internalize shame, believing that you are the one who caused this detachment. But the truth is, it was never about you being wrong. It was about you no longer being easy to control. When someone pulls away after you speak your truth, set a boundary, or begin to change, it's natural to question yourself. You may wonder, did I go too far? Was I too cold? Did I ruin everything? That self-doubt creeps in slowly and convincingly. But here's the hard truth that's easy to miss in those quiet, lonely moments. Their withdrawal is not an indicator that you did something wrong. It's evidence that they can't handle who you're becoming. It's their discomfort speaking, not your failure echoing. Most of us are taught to equate closeness with harmony. We're raised to think that if people back away, we must have been the problem. So when a person becomes distant, aloof, or emotionally unavailable after we draw a line or step into a more empowered version of ourselves, we instinctively go into self-blame mode. But that conditioning is part of the manipulation cycle. It teaches us that conflict or distance means guilt, and that guilt keeps us quiet, small, and easy to manage. The truth is, growth is uncomfortable, not just for you, but for the people who have benefited from the version of you that didn't ask for much. When you begin to heal, to express your needs, to stop people pleasing, those around you who relied on your silence often don't know how to respond. They may feel threatened. They may feel exposed. Most of all, they feel a loss of control. And because they're unwilling to confront those feelings in a mature way, they withdraw, not out of reflection, but out of resentment, not to give space, but to punish. Here's the catch, and their discomfort is not your responsibility. You are not in charge of making other people comfortable with your truth. If someone feels uneasy because you started standing up for yourself, that's a sign that the relationship was dependent on your compliance, not your authenticity. It was never about mutual respect. It was about predictability. And now that you've shifted the dynamic, they're scrambling to figure out how to put you back in the role you played before. But that's not growth. It's regression. And you didn't come this far to go backward. This kind of emotional reaction is a test and a trap. The test is whether you'll abandon your boundaries for the illusion of peace. The trap is the belief that you are at fault for someone else's emotional immaturity. The manipulator hopes you'll see their withdrawal as your punishment instead of their coping mechanism. They want you to internalize it so deeply that you begin to police your own voice just to keep their presence in your life. That's not connection, it's coercion. What they're really saying by pulling away is this: I am no longer comfortable around you because I cannot control you. That is not an indictment of your choices. It is a confession of their limitations. Healthy people don't retreat from honest communication. They might feel discomfort, but they stay present. They ask questions. They clarify. They work through it. They don't use silence, distance, or coldness as weapons. So if someone disappears, changes tone, or becomes cold after you express something authentic, you're not watching a healthy reaction. You're watching emotional immaturity in action. One of the most freeing realizations in your healing journey is this: not everyone will like the real you. And that's okay. You're not here to fit into the emotional templates others have created for you. You're here to expand. And anyone who truly values you will grow alongside you, not guilt you into shrinking. So the next time someone's with withdrawal makes you question your worth, remember, you didn't break anything. You revealed something. And what you revealed was their discomfort with no longer being able to shape your reality. There comes a moment in every emotionally manipulative dynamic where the game shifts. You begin to see the patterns clearly, how your boundaries are tested, how your silence is rewarded more than your honesty, how you're pressured to make yourself small in order to preserve peace. And in that moment, a powerful yet painful truth emerges: you are being given a choice. Not openly, not honestly, but through someone's behavior. They are saying, change yourself to be who I want, or risk losing my approval. This unspoken ultimatum isn't always delivered with words. Sometimes it arrives through cold silence after you express a need. Other times, it's hidden behind a sarcastic comment, a passive, aggressive sigh, or the way they suddenly withdraw affection when you speak your mind. And the hardest part is these behaviors often don't seem dramatic enough to count as manipulation. So you second guess yourself, but the pattern is there: you are loved when you're agreeable. You are punished when you are authentic. This forces you into a deeply uncomfortable psychological split. On one side is the desire to be accepted. After all, we all crave connection, and being liked, loved, or seen by others is a fundamental human need. But on the other side is your growing awareness of your own integrity, your truth, your needs, your boundaries, your values. And they are not aligning with the version of yourself that this person expects. So you are left with a decision: do I bend to keep the peace, or do I stand tall and risk losing their approval? The cost of conformity is high. When you continually adjust yourself to make someone else comfortable, you begin to chip away at your own sense of identity. You may gain their attention, but it comes at the expense of your self-respect. You may feel a fleeting sense of relief when they accept you, but that relief is always temporary because it's built on performance, not authenticity. Over time, this kind of internal betrayal can leave you exhausted, resentful, and disconnected from your own truth. Standing in your integrity, however, is not without its price. Choosing authenticity often means walking through discomfort, silence, or even loss. People may distance themselves. Some may criticize you, spread narratives about you, or claim that you are the problem. It can feel incredibly isolating to stand firm when others expect you to fall in line. But that solitude, painful as it may be, holds a secret gift: clarity. When you stop conforming, you begin to see who truly values the real you and who only valued the version of you that they could control. This crossroads, conformity or integrity, is not just a personal decision, it is a defining moment in your self-worth. Each time you choose to stay true to yourself, even if it costs you someone else's approval, you reinforce a vital belief. I matter. My voice, my boundaries, and my values are not negotiable for the sake of keeping someone in my life. And that is the kind of self-respect that no one can fake or take from you. People often say, choose yourself. But what they don't tell you is that sometimes choosing yourself means losing people. It means tolerating the sting of being misunderstood. It means watching people rewrite the story to paint you as cold, selfish, or difficult. But if being difficult means not being manipulated, if being cold means setting boundaries, and if being selfish means protecting your mental and emotional well-being, then so be it. That's not weakness. That's liberation. You must understand true. Belonging never requires you to betray yourself. Real relationships, healthy, honest, emotionally mature relationships, can hold space for disagreement, boundaries, and growth. They don't force you into emotional debt to maintain connection. They don't require you to suppress your truth in exchange for love. So when faced with that false choice, conform or lose, you have every right to choose the third option, evolve. You can walk away from their game, not because you're too proud, but because you're finally free. In a world where control is often disguised as care and manipulation masquerades as love, it's easy to forget what healthy connection actually looks and feels like. When you've been in emotionally toxic dynamics where affection was conditional, boundaries were punished, and independence was treated as betrayal, you begin to confuse intensity for intimacy. You start to think that love must come with tension, that loyalty must come with silence, and that being accepted means being obedient. But none of that is true, not even close. Real relationships, whether they are friendships, romantic connections, or family ties, don't require you to play small. They don't demand that you edit yourself to make someone else feel powerful. The right people don't punish you for speaking up. They listen. They don't get defensive when you express how you feel. They reflect. They don't ice you out or disappear just because they're uncomfortable with your truth. Healthy people know that honesty and trust go hand in hand, even when the truth stings or challenges them. It's important to understand that emotional maturity is what separates manipulation from connection. Emotionally mature people do not view your autonomy as a threat to their influence. They don't weaponize closeness. They don't make you earn affection by jumping through hoops. If you need space, they give it without resentment. If you need to draw a line, they honor it without making you feel guilty. They don't withhold attention to punish. They communicate to understand. Because for them, the relationship is built on mutual respect, not domination. There's a certain peace you feel when you're in the company of the right people. It's the peace of knowing you can disagree without losing the relationship. It's the freedom of expressing your needs without being made to feel like a burden. It's the safety of showing up as your whole self, not just the version that is agreeable or convenient. The right people will never make you fear emotional exile just because you grew changed or said no. Their love isn't a contract, it's a commitment. But here's the hard truth: to experience that kind of connection, you have to stop chasing it from the wrong ones. The people who relied on your silence will not know what to do with your voice. The ones who only loved your compliance will not clap for your courage, and that's okay. You're not here to convince everyone to love the real you. You're here to be the real you and allow the right people to stay and let the wrong ones walk away. That takes courage, but it's the kind of courage that leads to healing. If someone constantly makes you feel like you need to shrink to be loved, it's not love, it's a performance. And performances are exhausting. They don't nourish you, they deplete you. They keep you stuck in a loop of doubt, always wondering if you're too much, too loud, too needy, too strong. But in reality, you're just too real for someone who only knows how to relate through control. And that's not your problem to fix. It's their emotional wound to confront. The right people, your people, won't manipulate you when they feel uncomfortable. They'll talk to you, they'll ask questions, they'll hold space for your experience, even if it challenges their own. They'll allow you to evolve without needing to exile you for it. They won't need to put you in your place because they respect you enough to let you stand on your own. Their presence won't be conditional. Their support won't be a reward for obedience. It will be constant, even through the hard conversations, the boundary setting the growth. And yes, those kinds of people are rare, but they do exist. But you'll only be able to recognize them once you stop tolerating the ones who punish your truth. You have to detox from the belief that love should hurt, that loyalty means losing yourself, and that connection should cost your peace. Because the moment you realize that healthy love doesn't manipulate, you'll stop chasing the kind that does. So when you find yourself standing at that crossroads between who you used to be and who you're becoming, remember this: your growth will threaten the comfort of those who only knew how to love the version of you that was easy to control. But you are not here to be easy. You are here to be whole. Let them withdraw. Let them fall silent. Let them create distance. Their behavior is not your reflection. It is their reaction to your rising. And while it may hurt to feel misunderstood, to feel pushed away for speaking your truth, there is something far more painful than being rejected for who you are. And that is being accepted for who you're not. You are not too much. You are not too difficult. You are not a problem to be solved. You are a person to be respected. And the ones who are meant for you, those who are rooted in emotional maturity and real connection, they won't need to manipulate you to feel secure. They will walk beside you, not ahead of you. They will love you, not manage you. The moment you stop negotiating your worth to preserve someone else's comfort, you begin to attract people who don't need your silence to feel safe. And those are the people who deserve a seat at your table. Because in the end, true connection isn't about control, it's about freedom.